I have chosen to analyze the poem Astrophil and Stella by poet Sir Philip Sidney. First, I'm going to analyze the poem's structure and contents and talk a little about the theme. And later I'm going to compare it to William Shakespeare's sonnet, My Mistress' Eyes and Nothing Like the Sun. The poem Astrophil and Stella is a sonnet. A sonnet is a poem which has 14 lines, regular rhythm, and can be divided into stanzas or line breaks. In this case, we have like an octave, which is the red one. You can see here. And we have a quatrain, which is the purple one. And then we have a couplet, which is the green one. The poem is told through a male narrator, Astrophil, and he tells us the story of his love, his muse, Stella. In the octave, the red one, it has A B end written. We can see here like delight, light, might, white. In the first stanza, or in this octave, the narrator compares this woman, Stella, to the world's beauty and explains how much she's worth. For instance, here in line 4, he compares her to Venus, that Venus herself is jealous of her grace, of Stella's grace. Or in line 2, where her face is perfection, it shows perfection. This also gives like the reader like the impression that this is not an ordinary lover. She's more than a goddess, because she's better than Venus, the god of love herself. She is perfection itself. In the quatrain, it has a CD and rhyme, like we can see B and C here in line 10 and 12. Here the narrator explains what her beauty means and does to him. He finds comfort and safety, and at the same time she brings out the best in him. For instance, here in line 12, where he says that she makes him only think of the best thoughts and only see the clearest judgment. In the last stanzas, the couplet, which in this case functions as a conclusion of the poem, in the couplet he assembles all of his opinions and thoughts about this perfect woman, who is more than a goddess, and comes to the conclusion that he is fully blessed for having a woman, for having this perfection, this perfect inspiration, his muse, like he says, my maiden muse. At the same time, he does not dare to speak more of her because he is afraid to blush. This could maybe symbolize that this perfection is too much for others, and he wants to hold on to it himself. Yes. Throughout this poem, Sir Philip Sidney uses hyperbole. He exaggerates to evoke strong feelings and create strong opinions. We see this, for instance, in line 2, where her face is perfection itself, or the god of love and beauty, Venus, is jealous of her grace. It is clear that he wants to create a strong impression that this woman, Stella, is, or like every woman, is flawless. They are perfection to him. Because of his use of these exaggerations, the reader actually becomes more like skeptical and does eventually take his description, doesn't take it literally, because they're so exaggerated. If we look at the language, it's filled with adjective to describe his muse. And when you use a lot of adjective, it makes the language very emotional. And if we connect that to the mood and the tone, it makes the tone and the mood of the poem very positive, because the narrative uses desirable and loving adjectives and strong similes. For example, like I said before, when he compares it to the Greek goddess of love and beauty. If we look at the theme itself, it would probably be love and desire. It would be Astophile's desire of Stella. He wants her beauty, her grace, her hand, everything. And we also see that he wants this in the start of every sentence. Those looks, that face, that grace, that hand, everything on her body is perfect, and he loves it all. And maybe it's not love and desire only, but also perfection, because she is flawless. She doesn't have any flaws, and he can't find anything that is ugly or horrible about her. So I would say the theme of this poem is love and desire, but the biggest theme, if you can say that, is perfection. If we compare Sidney's sonnet to the dramatist and playwright William Shakespeare's sonnet, My Mistress' Eyes and Nothing Like the Sun, we'll find some comparisons and also some differences. Again, there's 14 lines because it's a sonnet. It's divided into quatrains and one couplet, which make it very Shakespearean, and very Shakespearean poem. And there's an end rhyme in every quatrain and couplet, like we see here: sun done, red head, and so it goes on. So the structure of these two poems or sonnets are very much alike. So the really interesting thing is looking at the content of these poems. Sidney, in his poem, he makes his mistress or lover into being one of the most beautiful creatures, while in Shakespeare's sonnet, he makes her out to be like a horrible and ugly beast. For instance, in line 12 in Shakespeare's sonnet, my mistress, when she walks, treads on the ground. He describes her walk like heavy and not feminine, and like a very more like male walking, if you can say that. So when Shakespeare has more this critical view on maybe women, or he just has the critical view on Sidney's view of women and this perfect thing and creature. While Sidney uses hyperbole to exaggerate her beauty, Shakespeare actually does the opposite. He uses not as much, but he uses hyperbole to describe the most ugly sides. This horrible woman, like she's not like a rose or something. She's more like she smells, and she's more like a male and not this like a sun or white as the snow or something like that. Furthermore, Shakespeare also questions his mistress' looks more than Sidney does. For instance, here in line 3, if snow be white, why then her breasts are done. Like, if she's so perfect, why aren't she just like the snow? He questions why isn't she like the most beautiful thing, and that's also you can also connect that to making fun of Sidney's poem or sonnet, because he doesn't question it, because he knows that women are like this snow, they are white like snow. So despite of the fact that these two poems actually deals with the same subject and share the same structure, their contents are totally different.